Hello and welcome to Edupedia World. So let's try and do a final scene and actually render this out. So since this model is very simple, it doesn't have any curved edges or anything, it's not going to look very nice if we render it like this. So we could add a material. I will just add something like a yellow color. Maybe play a little bit with the reflection settings. Just do a simple material, add it onto the base, and if you render, it actually doesn't look very nice. I'll have to admit, it doesn't look very nice, and well, that is kind of to be expected when we only have extremely sharp edges. So let's just leave it like this, and let's try to do something a little bit fun. So I will take this, instead of calling it base, I'll not delete it, I'll call it Robot1. Then I will just close this down, Control drag to duplicate, and I'll call it Robot2. I'll take Robot2 and move him over here, and then I will rotate him 180 degrees. So hold shift and you can do it very precisely. And I'll actually also give Robot2 a different material. So let's choose something like a blue. Drag that onto robot number 2. Then I want to create a null object, put it in between the two robotic arms, and then I want to create a new null object, drag this underneath the first null. So I'll call this null will be placed right here, I'll call that control, and then I will call this robot1 control. I'll take robot1 control and move it up besides control. As you can see, there are these little dots right here. Robot control 1, I'll actually control drag it over to the side to make a copy, and then I will, instead of calling it robot1 control, I'll call it robot2 control, like this. So if I move the control around, the 2 points, they follow along. So Robot1 and Robot2, I'll go in and change their goal. So first, before the goal was set as a goal that I made by clicking this button, instead I want to use the Robot1 control and Robot2 controls. So I go into Robot1 and select this guy, and then for the goal I'll choose Robot1 control. I'll do the same thing for Robot2, I'll choose Robot2 control. And then I will just move these points so that they like line up. And what I can do now is that I can take this control, and it's only one L, sorry, and then I can move it around, and the two robotic arms, they like mirror each other. So I'm going to make kind of like a dance. So I'll go over here, set a keyframe, and then I'll actually use this guy. So highlight this, and this will be auto keying. So every time I change something, it will set a keyframe. So I can move over here, and it will automatically set a keyframe. So let's go back to the beginning and see what we've got. So as you saw, I made sure that I didn't put them into any positions where they would like clip into each other. And yeah, this looks kind of fun, I don't know. looks quite alright. I'll go into the render settings, and I'll actually just leave this at 800 by 600, and I won't add anything special. I'll just keep it very simple. I'll choose a JPEG 8 bits, that's the only option you've got, and then I'll just basically find somewhere to save this. So I'll call this Robotic Arms Tutorial, and I'll call it Robots. Hit enter, and we are now ready to render this out. So I'll actually just create a camera and put it into the position I want. That way I'm sure that this is where it's going to be captured from. And then I'll do Shift R, and that's basically the same as clicking this button right here. And as you can see, what happened was that it rendered the current frame. That's because I have it set up wrong in here. So go into Output and then choose All Frames. And we can now close this down again. I can go into my file system. I can go into my file system, Cinema 4D Robotic Arms Tutorial, and just delete the picture that it rendered, and then do Shift R once again. And as you can see, since this is such a simple animation, it can render it out very quickly. And as I said last time as well, this is something that you're going to experience, that the first renders you're going to make are going to be pretty quick, because you don't know all the settings and stuff, and you don't do anything that's very complicated. But when you get more advanced, it's going to take a million years to render this. So this is going very quickly, and I may just pause this until it's done. So right now we're just getting to the end, and it's now done. We can use these playback controls to actually review our animation. It's just playing through all these frames over here to the side, and this looks quite alright. We can close this and open up After Effects, where we will import this, and yeah, we can do stuff like color correction and all that good stuff. We can also add text and whatever we want to. So go over here, right click, import file, and we're going to choose our pictures, highlight the JPEG sequence, and After Effects does this automatically most of the time. So I'll just import, drag this into our composition, and here's our animation. So something that you'll notice with CG renders as this is that there aren't going to be any motion blur. And if you know photography, you'll know that motion blur is created when like the subject moves through the exposure. So there are a few ways that we can come by this. In Cinema 4D you can actually render out motion blur. If you're in the physical renderer, you can enable motion blur, but it actually takes a long time for the computer to render motion blur. It does it very nicely, I have to say, but it takes a long time. So they are better, or not, they're not better, but they are much faster. And programs like RSMB, that stands for Real Smart Motion Blur, can actually do motion blur. It's a paid plugin, but if you just drag it onto your video, you'll see that it has actually, if I turn it on and off, it has created a bit of motion blur. And if I preview this, you'll see that when these things start to move fast, they will get a bit of motion blur, and it just makes it a little bit nicer to look at for the eye. So as you can see, it adds a bit of render time, but compared to having to spend like 5 times, 10 times, 20 times as long rendering, this is almost nothing. So that's actually about it for how we can render out these robotic arms. We could of course also have added lights and ambient occlusion and shadows and all stuff, but we just wanted to keep this as simple as we could. So thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching Edupedia World. Stay tuned for more videos.